Blog Talk Radio.
Transition, the process of change from one condition to another.
We are now at a new crossroads where change is evident once again.
What does not serve us must transform us anew.
Returning to our original state of oneness and true nature of that which created who we truly are.
Confusion was the way of the past. Enlightenment is the way of the now and future. Shedding the layers of deceit.
We now bring you the transformation of the two who started as one. Our fearless planet never stands still.
Earth has been in a process of transition, not exactly remarkable, ongoing reality.
Welcome to Transition Radio.
Well, hello, my name is Mark Angelo Cummings, your host.
And my name is Lynna Lopez, your hostess.
We're broadcasting live from the beautiful land of enchantment, Silver City, New Mexico.
A lot warmer today. Thank you.
So I think finally we're getting rid of this frigid cold. It's killed me. This has been the worst winter I've ever had to experience.
Well, you said it's happened since October, is that right?
It's been since October, and living in an RV, it gets cold. It gets very cold. But not enough of that. Weather's changing. I think there's still a lot of cold weather all over the place. Hopefully this...
I haven't checked recently. I don't think there have been any blizzards, but
yeah, I don't know.
We live in New Mexico.
New Mexico. Nice, beautiful New Mexico. Well, guys, if any time you're free to call in at 646-716-6895, or you could join us in chat, ask away, make comments. Try to bring you 3 shows a week, different topics, different themes. Tonight is nutrition and health, and a lot of very important information for all of you. I know many people are always trying to lose weight. You know, that's one of the quests that, you know,
it's the quest of everyone's. It seems like the whole world is trying to lose weight, except for people that live in these countries where they can eat raw foods.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, people do so many unhealthy and crazy things in quest of losing weight. I mean, when I had my Bodies Under Construction salon and personal training studio, I would get clients coming in. I've got this wedding to go to in 2 months, and I need to lose 50 pounds. You know, I look at them like, you know, it didn't take you 2 months to put on this weight. It's not going to come off in 2 months, and you got to do it the right way.
Well, before we get into our topics for the day, let's thank our sponsors at thebreastformstore.com, because they have everything you can imagine to enhance your feminizing needs.
We already said that.
No, we didn't.
Yes, we did.
We did not.
It's Spunk Lube.
No way.
Yeah.
No, we didn't. We said it earlier.
Okay. And Spunk Lube.
Yes.
And it's a personal lubricant, and it's glycerin-free. It comes in all sorts of different flavors, and it's safe with all the toys you may want to use. And if you want to receive a 10% discount, just enter the code TR, and you can visit their
website at spunklube.com.
Yes, and that's an amazing website with all sorts of fun things.
Did you say it was fun to use?
Yes, it is fun to use, yes. So anyway, as we're trying to tell people how to lose weight, or all the dangerous things that they go through, gastric bypass is one of the things that comes to mind.
Well, it's crazy that doctors would recommend this kind of surgery. I mean, I know that certain people have been, I guess, helped by it, but I don't know if it really goes to the root of what the real problem is. Because if they're just going to staple their stomach, it doesn't speak to their food addiction.
Exactly, and that's usually where the problem lies. It's not the size of your stomach, because we're meant to eat lots and lots and lots of food, but we're meant to eat the right kind of foods. And that's why people are always hungry, because the food that they're eating is void of nutrients. It's calorie-dense, dehydrated junk that they're putting inside their stomach, so the cells are not getting what they need, so they're screaming at you, and that's why you always feel hungry. So no, Stapling your stomach is not the answer. There's 2 new studies that indicate that gastric bypass surgery could have severely dangerous side effects, including severe hypoglycemia, which means low blood sugar levels, and even death. Blackouts are being caused by traffic accidents, and the reason is the first study demonstrates that gastric bypass surgery can result in a potentially dangerous hypoglycemia, which again means low blood glucose or sugar, complications that may require quick treatment. It examined the history of 3 patients who suffered such severe hypoglycemia following meals as a result of high insulin levels. And they became confused, that's right, and sometimes blacked out. In 2 cases, this caused automobile collisions.
None of the patients responded to medication, and they all eventually needed partial or complete removal of the pancreas, the major source of insulin, in order to prevent them from undergoing dangerous declines in glucose. Wait a minute. The pancreas?
Yes, that's the organ that produces insulin. That's the organ that allows your body to produce this substance that will, like a Pac-Man, eating away at the excessive amount of sugars in your bloodstream, because too much sugar in your bloodstream can make you go into a coma, can make your brain literally just die.
So if you remove a full-on body part, isn't that a negative?
It's totally a negative. It's not meant to be cutting out an organ out of your body.
Because aren't you supposed to, then they're probably going to get injected with insulin for the rest
of their lives.
Or wear one of those monitors.
And people don't realize that insulin is very bad for your health. Insulin injections, because it's synthetic. It's not your natural production of insulin. So anything synthetic in your body is not good, and literally fries your nervous system. It just does a lot of harm.
And what's this dumping syndrome now they're talking about? It says a possible reason for the postprandial, a fancy word for after meal, hypoglycemia they experienced is quote-unquote dumping syndrome, which occurs when the small intestine fills too quickly with undigested food from the stomach, and this can happen following gastric bypass surgery.
That's pretty scary stuff. However, the failure of the symptoms to respond to treatment suggests there are other mechanisms at work as well, such as increased insulin sensitivity following the surgery and abnormal hormonal secretion patterns resulting from alteration of the intestinal tract. Now, people don't realize, this insulin sensitivity. There are so many people nowadays with this kind of problem because your pancreas is producing the insulin. It's just shooting it out there. Like, here you go.
It's there.
No, but in the beginning it's there.
Yeah.
It's just now the receptors and the insulin are not communicating. They have no clue. They're like, I don't know what I'm doing here. And the pancreas keeps producing more and more insulin. Well, now you're falling in danger because you have way too much insulin in your bloodstream, but the receptors are not communicating because the kind of food that people are eating is synthetic, high corn fructose syrup, for instance.
Right.
Body doesn't know what that is.
Exactly.
Has no clue.
It's processed food.
Exactly. So it's like, what is this? What do I do with this? It's crazy. Symptoms of severe hypoglycemia can include confusion, lightheadedness, rapid heart rate, shaking. You see a lot of people that they need food, they start to sweat, excessive hunger, they're always hungry, headaches in the morning, nightmares, and get this one, even death.
That's crazy. That is one of the reasons not to have it.
Yeah.
Risk of death. I mean, the funny thing is that most drugs that they advertise on, the television or in internet, advertisements, they always have this big, long discourse of side effects, the potential death risks and all this. But
suicidal thoughts even.
But they have these happy people, like going about their daily lives, and it's like, it's crazy.
Sometimes the side effects are worse than the actual disease, And
they say that in the advertisement.
No.
At the same time, other research has uncovered a higher than expected risk of death following surgery for obesity, even among younger patients. In a study of more than 16,000 subjects, which is a lot of people, more than 5% of men and nearly 3% of women aged 35 to 44 were dead within a year of the surgery.
Slightly higher rates were found in patients 45 to 54 and among patients 65 to 74. Almost 13% of men and roughly 6% of women died. Among those aged 75 and older, half of the men and 40% of the women died.
Like died.
You know, I knew this one guy, you know, lived in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale, actually Hollywood, and he had a bypass surgery, and he did lose a lot of weight, you know, but still had the fat mentality, and he started gaining the weight back. I think he kept it off. He lost nearly 100 pounds. He kept it off maybe a year, but after that, boom, but he still ate the same. He was Puerto Rican, actually. Loved familia. Yeah, I love to eat, you know, Puerto Rican food. He invited me to many parties and didn't change his way of, you know, eating. So stapling the stomach doesn't solve anything.
Well, okay, so when they do staple and you still have that bad habit of eating too much food, what happens to your stomach? I mean, does it hold it all in and then kind of it can get unstapled, or what happens?
The stomach starts to stretch again because the material that the stomach is made
Even
of.
after that?
Even after that, yes. It just becomes, you know, bigger. And they find unique ways of putting food inside their system. If you have a food addiction, you will find a way to get the foods you love inside of you.
Where there's a will,
there is a way, yes.
Well, malnutrition, infection, shock to the system is the other part of this article. The potentially deadly complications can include malnutrition, infection, and bowel and gallbladder problems. The surgery itself can be a dangerous shock to the system, particularly for older patients. Gastric bypass is the most common U.S. obesity surgery. About 160,000 people undergo gastric bypass surgery every year.
It doesn't surprise me because America is the land of everything quick.
Yep,
Quick.
It's like McDonald's style meal, you know, bring it to me.
Yeah, and they really don't want to do the work. Like I said, it's not about the size of your stomach because you are meant to eat a lot of food in one sitting. It's about the quality of food that you're putting in your system. We eat like crazy.
Right.
As raw vegans, we eat a lot. I mean,
we have a huge bowl of salad.
And, you know, tasty and homemade guacamole dressing with all sorts of herbs and spices and garlic and just to die for. We eat till we're full. We eat a ton of fruit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you eat the right kind of food, you don't have hunger pains.
You can eat a lot of it.
Yeah.
You can eat as much as you want.
And there's no counting calories. In fact, you want to eat at least 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day.
That's crazy.
We're working ourselves up to that because it's hard to eat. Water-filled food makes you full.
I can't wait for, you know, like you like watermelon. I can't wait to just half a watermelon. You take one half, I'll take the other.
And take the spoon.
And scoop it.
Yeah.
That's what vegetarian raw vegans do, you know. And
raw vegans. Yeah.
They're just excited because, I mean, it's just so good. Because what happens is that when you're on this kind of a lifestyle, you basically kind of like your brain kind of shuts out the other taste buds that you had for foods that weren't very fulfilling but tasted good. I mean, I'm not going to say that my chips didn't taste good. You know, they did, you know, or that my steak didn't taste good. It did. But what happens is that as you grow and your taste buds change and your food choices have changed, you are able to not crave those things anymore. So like a sun-dried tomato now is a substitute for bacon in my salad. You know, it has that, you know, kind of that texture, you know, and stuff like that. So it's awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. Another thing that's really interesting, and we're going to go into this article now regarding
vegetarian diets and the fact that they can prevent colon cancer, which is a very personal thing for me because I lost my dad back in 2004. And what did he die of? Colorectal cancer. So he ate, you know, my mom would cook like a Puerto Rican meal, and typically we like to eat a lot of pork, like red meat, right?
Yes.
So they cook it, and they like to, you know, they'd be like, come on and eat this cuero, you know, it's a skin that's been cooked, and then you pull it off of the animal or whatever, the meat, and it's like greasy, sticky, residuey, and just gross. And that's something like a delicacy, right, in the Latin American communities. But it's awfully bad for you.
It's horrific, and this is one of the reasons why they call the pork a dirty animal and shellfish and all that stuff. It's you're not meant to eat food that's acidic, that's going to putrefy inside your intestines.
Even animals, like if you see a parrot, eating food, and they live up to 100, 150 years. These animals, what do they eat? Mostly
green stuff. A cow, what does the cow eat? Grass.
Right.
A horse, what does a horse eat?
Right.
What does a gorilla eat? Bananas.
They don't cook their
food. Yeah.
They're smart enough to not kill their food.
To not alter the molecular component of the food they're eating and voiding it of all nutrients.
So you think that an animal, is not a very smart thing, but in reality, they're smarter than us in some ways because we've destroyed our food supply, and our bodies by cooking everything.
Definitely.
Here's another reason to go veg, if you haven't already, which we have.
Yeah.
Another study supports the idea that between vegetarian or near vegetarian diets, they can prevent colon cancer. There's more evidence a vegetarian diet can cut cancer risk. This time it's colon cancer.
While it's still not clear whether it's eating more fruits and vegetables or cutting out meat that makes the difference, the researchers say it's more strong evidence in favor of a plant-based diet.
Dr. Michael Orlich of Loma Linda University in California and colleagues looked at 77,695 Seventh-day Adventist men and women who had been taking part in a long-term study of health and diet. Seventh-day Adventists are encouraged to eat a healthy diet, avoid smoking, and other unhealthful habits. Many are vegetarian or vegan, but some eat fish and some eat certain meats such as chicken or lamb. Now, for me, I grew up going to a Seventh-day Adventist school, so I know exactly what their lifestyles are about, because I would bring my bacon and egg sandwich, and the kids at school would be grossed out, because they like eating their veggie burgers, their veggie tacos, their veggie meals, which I thought were repulsive and gross at the time, but there's probably more of them alive today than, and healthy today than some of the other people that I know.
Well, it's the type of foods that we're meant to eat. We're not meant to eat. We don't have fangs. We don't have claws. If the average American had to go out and hunt their food, they'd starve, because we're not meant to eat that kind of stuff, and especially today's condition in dairy farms and in slaughterhouses, the way they treat this animal. You're eating suffering. You're just eating an animal that's full of antibiotic, it's full of steroids, and it's had a life that was raised just for your consumption. And it's gross. It's totally gross.
I mean, they're eating animals that have been eating their own.
Yes, and they're away from their natural environment. So back in the day when your parents or their great-grandparents, farm and the milk didn't have all the pasteurization, and these poor cows that they're keeping them pregnant 24/7, 360-something days a year to produce milk, that's not normal. And so you're going to end up getting sick. And, your blood's going to turn acidic, and you're going to get all sorts of ailments and cancer.
What does that mean, your blood gets acidic? I mean, what's the difference?
Okay, there's alkalinity and acidity. Your blood, your pH is supposed to be alkalinized in order to have a healthy environment so that your body does not produce disease, especially cancer.
So the acidic foods are the foods that are
animal.
Dry.
Not so much dry. Yeah, cooking food makes the food acidic. Animal protein is all acidic. Milk is very acidic, extremely acidic.
What was that study? We just saw this new research about sesame seeds. People complain about, getting calcium and how they can only get it from milk.
Yeah, and that's bogus, because vegetables have a ton of calcium in it. I mean, broccoli has calcium in it. Spinach has calcium and a lot of protein, pound for pound, more usable protein than a piece of meat.
But calcium in sesame seeds, and we're talking about uncooked or unhulled or whatever they are, raw, it only takes like a tablespoon to get more calcium.
Try to pull out here.
Is it like 300 and something?
Yeah, it's whole raw sesame seeds contain about 88 milligrams of calcium per tablespoon of seeds. Just a quarter cup of natural sesame seeds provide more calcium than a whole cup of milk. A quarter cup of raw natural sesame seed has 351 milligrams of calcium, while 1 cup of non-fat milk has 360, and 1 cup of whole milk has only 291. Plus, they're alkaline, whereas milk is acidic, which is what causes all the problem, all the mucus, all the diseases, all the issues that,
So my mom should have fed me sesame seeds all along.
Yeah, would have been a lot healthier for you. It's got all sorts of minerals and magnesium, and it's an awesome thing. Anyway, over 7 years, vegans and vegetarians had about a 22% lower risk of colon rectal cancer, Orlish teams reported in the Journal of the American Medical Association. People who ate fish but not meat seem to have the lowest risk of colon cancer, 43% lower than people who ate meat. Orlish team says that the omega-3 fatty acids in fish may be responsible. Vegetarian sources include walnuts and flaxseed oil. I'd rather get it from walnut and flaxseed oil than eating the mercury-filled fish.
Well, we don't know what's in the ocean anymore, with the BP oil spills and other, environmental changes that they're causing. You just never know what's going on. The findings fit in with studies that show plant-based diets can reduce the risk of obesity, high blood pressure, diabetes, and the risk of early death. Although reduction in meat intake may be a primary reason for the reduced risk demonstrated in vegetarians, and an increase in the consumption of various whole plant foods might also contribute to the reduction, Orlich's team wrote.
Vegetarian diets are full of healthy cancer-fighting phytochemicals that work as antioxidants, immune boosters, said Hilary Thatch, a registered dietitian at the North Shore LIG Cancer Institute, who was not involved in the study.
In addition, vegetarian diets are rich in fiber, helping to support regular bowel movements, Zach said. Vegetarian diets are also low, void of red meats, a factor that has been associated with colorectal cancer incidence.
Colorectal cancer is the second leading cancer killer in the United States after lung cancer. It kills close to 50,000 Americans a year and is diagnosed in about 133,000. That's a lot of numbers.
It's important to note that the incidence of colorectal cancers was very low to begin with. 490 of the 77,695 participants, said Madeline Fernstrom, Today Health and Nutrition editor.
The study points out yet another reason to eat a healthy, well-balanced diet, eat real, whole foods, and cut down on processed food, she added. For overall good health, it looks like a diet that's good for colon rectal cancer health is the same as the one that's good for the heart, the brain, and your waistline.
The federal government recommends a plant-based diet. Well, that's a shocker.
Yeah.
And the latest advice on dietary guidelines specifies that people should take it easy on the red meat, or really cut it out, and eat more fruits and vegetables, not just for a snack.
Yeah, that's what most people think.
Such diets don't just lower cancer risk, they lower the risk of heart disease, stroke, and diabetes.
Yeah, people don't realize that colon health is very important. We do enemas, which is...
Yeah, that's another thing that people have really lost out on. Their doctors would never recommend them to do an enema, I don't think. Nowadays.
In the old days, they did. That was one of the ways to restore health.
Right.
It was done since Egyptian time. Egyptians knew, that a healthy colon meant a healthy body.
It makes sense, though, if you're going to clean out that, miles of intestinal, tubing in there.
Yeah.
You said what? Stuff gets stuck in there?
And, well, you've got little crevices, and stuff gets stuck in there, and there's even patches or parts where there's feces that has not come out, but it's just kind of like stays there. So when you do either a colonics or you do an enema, it irrigates the colon and it gets all that old bad stuff that's been stuck in there, creating bacteria, creating viruses, creating cancer and polyps and all sorts of issues. You flush that out, you clean it. You start noticing better breath. You start noticing a lot more energy. You get rid of headaches. There are people like, if you have a headache and you do an enema, your headache goes.
Wow.
It goes away. It's just, people have no clue.
Well, your health is really connected to your colon.
Very much
right?
so. Very much so. It's, people don't really care about their health. They like really, let's not say that, because there are a lot of people that do, and there are a lot of people that are aware and awake and are starting to. But a lot of people are still very ignorant.
I think a majority of people are, even like, texting is a dangerous thing, because some people just walk around, in cities. You just see people not paying attention. They're crossing the street looking at their iPhone or their Android and stuff, and they're not even paying attention to traffic around them. But here's a study that talks about how people can be damaging their spinal, cord in the back by being slumped over on their smartphone.
And people don't realize that posture is a very important thing. As we age, we think it's the norm to get what we call a kyphotic posture, which means your head's starting to tilt, your spine's gotten very weak because of all the milk that you've been drinking. Because people think to drink milk, it's the opposite. Milk causes osteoporosis.
Wow, so calcium later in life is not so good, especially if it's calcium from milk?
Well, because it's actually acidic, and the acidic levels eats away at the calcium in your body. So they're taking calcium supplementation, taking milk, thinking they're doing something fantastic, and on the contrary, they're actually creating more osteoporosis in their body.
More sesame seeds.
More sesame seeds. But, how you sit. I mean, more people get injuries from sitting in front of the computer or texting than they do if they were working hard labor. Because these little insults to your spine or to your vertebrae day in and day out actually creates a major problem.
Well, most people spend an average of 2 to 4 hours a day slumped over their smartphones, according to the study that is in this article. And that awkward position isn't doing any favors for your neck and back.
The adult head weighs about 10 to 12 pounds. So that's a lot of pounds. So when you're standing upright with perfect posture, that's the amount of stress that's on your spine. According to the new research, tilting your head forward increases the amount of stress and therefore weight on your spine. When you tilt just 15 degrees, that's 1.5 forward, that's about 27 pounds. At 30 degrees, it's 40 pounds. At 45 degrees, that's 49 pounds. And at 60 degrees, it's 60 pounds of stress.
That's crazy.
That is.
Not only can that cause a literal pain in your neck, but it also puts stress on your muscles, tendons, and ligaments, writes study author Kenneth K. Hansraj, MD, Chief of Spine Surgery at New York Spine Surgery and Rehabilitation Medicine.
But as scary as this news is, we know you won't be throwing out your phone or your tablet or your e-reader anytime soon. That's fine. Just be sure to use it with proper posture, which means your ears are aligned with your shoulder and your shoulder blades are back in the neutral position. Yes, this means putting your phone pretty much directly in front of your face, but at least you won't be dealing with seriously stiff neck 20 years from now.
That's, it's something that people, common sense things, that you don't think that you really need to do, but slumped over looking at your computer screen, slumped over looking at your iPhone. I mean, these are common sense things that people should wake up and realize that they need to take care of themselves. Like you were talking about this new generation, I mean, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to them?
They're heading for trouble because they don't eat right. PE is taken out of the curriculum in school. All they do is sit in front of a computer all day or on their iPhones, and it's just a very unhealthy lifestyle. I hate to see what many of these kids are going to look like when they reach my age.
And most of them are overweight.
Yes,
so even if, as they get older, they're going to want to be like a weekend warrior, and you realize that if you choose to go running and you're overweight, we were talking about it earlier today, with the weight that you have, you're just putting more stress
on your joints. Yeah.
So you think that you're doing something healthy, but what you need to do is go into it slowly, start walking, and then as you start losing weight, then you can basically qualify to, be able to run or jog slowly.
Well, people want everything fast. That's why the gastric bypass surgery, that's why these diets, hey, make me lose 50 pounds in 2 months. No, the body will lose the weight when it starts to get healthy. You need to make your body healthy first so that your body loses weight. That's how it works. It's not the other way around. Diets are horrific for the system. It's changing your lifestyle, learning to eat right, eliminating junk food. Start moving, walk, go dancing, do fun things, get out of your house, breathe the real air. You're in a sick building all day, and then you get in your car, and then you sit in front of your TV. That's terrible.
Yeah,
So,
or in front of your computer.
Yeah, so take care of your health, folks. It's very important. Anyway, guys, stay tuned Friday. We have a guest this Friday. His name is Quinn Evan. He's a musician, Los Zorritos or something like that.
Zingoros.
Zingoros is
Yeah.
the name of the group. It's two FTM brothers, and it'll be an amazing interview for you guys to catch. And stay tuned then. In the meantime, if you can't live your truth,
then it's just not worth living.
Good night, folks, and thank you for tuning in.
See you guys.
See ya.